All right, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the living Alahym in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. And we pick it up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you. If you have not the love of Alahym in you. Come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. Another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Alahym only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There is one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Because had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? Shalom, Brother Francis. Praise Yahuah, the name of Yahushua. Praise the Lord. Let's make it do what it do. In Deuteronomy 10, verse 17. Still in Psalms, just using a different lead verse because of what we were looking at in that Psalms 145. We would have been remiss, if we had not made that do what it do. So that's what we're going to do. Deuteronomy 10, and pick it up at verse 14. Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is Yahuah, your Alahym, the earth also, with all that is therein. Only Yahuah had a delight in your Abbas that loved him. He chose their seed after them, giving you above all people as it is this day. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked. For Yahuah, your Alahym, is a God of gods, a Lord of lords, a great Alahym, a mighty and a terrible, which regard not persons nor take reward. We know that he is a God of God. He is a Lord of lords. Let's take this Revelation 17 for the second half of the title, if you would. Just to set it in motion, 17, 14, that's all we want. These shall make war with the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. And you should hear Korah, Bakar, and Kased for called, chosen, and faithful. That's what we all desire to be. That's what we all need to be. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, though. You can pick it up at verse 1. 1 Corinthians 8, 1. First Corinthians 8 and 1. Now, as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puff up, love edify. Let's look at something real quick. You look at knowledge puffing up. Of course, when you look at puff up, you already know this. I just want you to hear the word. It's usio, as regards to Greek. And of course, that is someone who is proud. Individuals gain a certain level of knowledge and become lifted up in their pride because of what they know. So they feel like they have a level of superiority. But he lets you know that love instructs. See, now the reason why this is important, why I'm focusing on this here, for to edify in the Greek, is okademo. And by definition here, this is to build a house, to erect a building, to build up from the foundation, to restore by building, to rebuild. Shalom, man. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To rebuild and to repair, and also to promote growth and wisdom, affection, grace, virtue, kadoshness, and blessedness, and to grow in wisdom, but also to found and establish. So let's take a pause looking at that Greek word for edify. So when it's telling you that love edifies, it's telling you that love repairs and rebuilds. Since I got that on the brain, 2 Kings chapter 12, the time. 2 Kings chapter 12, one good time, because you're talking about repairing and rebuilding. After that, I think I want Isaiah 59, it could be 57, but I'll see when I get around that corner. 2 Kings 12. So to let you know, I just want y'all to focus on that. Of course, we could mention a couple verses, Psalms 118, and maybe we just need to go to Psalms 118. Let's just go to Psalms 118 and stay true to what we ought to be doing, what we said we were going to do. Let's do that instead. Let's do that instead. We'll pick it up at verse 1, work our way down, because there's a lot of verses that we're not going to particularly focus on indefinitely. Nevertheless, Psalms 118:1. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuah, for he is good, because his mercy endure forever. Let Yasharal now say that his mercy endures forever. Let the house of Aaron now say that his mercy endures forever. Let them now that fear Yahuah say that his mercy endures forever. I called upon Yahuah in distress. Yahuah answered me and set me in a large place. So the first thing we need to be thinking about in that is, that he was heard and that he feared, and he set him in a large place. Let's look at large. Make sure that that's not Rakav, as forth as wide or an expanse, and then we can move on. And it is not. When we have this one here, it's Merkav, mean, Rosh, Kat, Bad. So we see that the blood of the son of Alahym has separated us to be in a broad, roomy, or wide or expansive place. And again, that's breadth, a large room. Also in regards to liberty. We know that where the Ruach of the Lord is, there's freedom. So when you call upon Yahuah in distress, Yahuah will answer and place you in freedom. See, that's another thing when we're looking at he's a God of gods and Lord of lords and King of kings. There is no other what could be called a deity that has the ability to save throughout the whole earth, to be able to give you freedom. See, a lot of people look like when they can step away from the word that now they have achieved some level of freedom, because what they think is freedom is the restrictions that they feel like they were under because of the word. Anytime you look at somebody who feels like they're restricted by structure and order, that is a person who is operating with a feminine mind, because you don't want to be controlled, so to speak. See, those are one of the underlying things that you have seen in society, which they have propagated and permeated through the hearts and minds of men and women. And that is the ability to be free to do what you want outside of any parameters of structure and order. Men are the purveyors and progenitors and layers of structure and order. It should be in the very inherent nature of a man to have some type of order and structure in regard to his life. Any of this free thinking, free flowing, that's not a man of order, which means he's not a man of rule, which means there's absolutely no way possible that he can ever even consider himself to be a king of any sorts. See, these are uncomfortable truths that punch men in the gut, stab them in the chest, and have their feelings hurt. Because unfortunately, most men want to be recognized as something extraordinary just by reason of existing. Remember that Yahushua said that he would be called great and he would be called the Son of the Highest. But in order to do that, he had to do something that no man had ever done. That's why he said if he hadn't done it, they would have not had sin nor have any cover for their sin. In order to be considered to be great, you have to do things that other people are not willing to do. Again, when we look at it, calling him in while you are in distress. Let's just look at distress and pause for a moment and think upon it. And of course, that is Matsar, and that's when you're in a strait, you're in pain. See, most of us look at it like this here. You don't necessarily have to be in pain in regards to something happening in your life. But see, because a lot of us, and the statement is true that most people only call upon Yahuah when things are going bad and not when they're going good. But those who are godly, aka Kased, aka faithful, they call upon Yahuah in all matters. When things are well, when things are bad, when things are joyous, and when things are painful. Nevertheless, when Yahushua was on that tree and he cried out and said, "It is finished," and gave up the breath, that man heard him and placed him in a large place and gave him freedom. And that freedom was from death. You can read Romans 8:1. Matter of fact, let's just do it. Romans 8:1. Therefore, there is therefore, when we were discussing that in regards to immersion, when you go into the water, you go into the water as somebody who was living after the flesh, but come up as somebody you wore. But come up as somebody who lives after the Ruach, or after or for Alahym after that point. That is the point of what Paul is trying to make. For the law of the Ruach of life and Mashiach Yahushua have made me free from the law of sin and death. So we already know that. There's the ruach that make alive. The flesh profit nothing. That's what and we went through this here, but this is for people who may not know. A lot of people read this here and they go all over the place, and this man is showing you the difference between life and death. Not the purpose of, let's toss the law away and all this other stuff. But those are individuals who have to stumble at what they have to stumble at. That's Yahuwah's will. Let it be accomplished. He said, for what the law could not do, that it was weak through the flesh. Alahym sending his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh. The righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the ruach. See, you got some who walk after death. You got some who walk after life. All ties back to what's in Deuteronomy 30. I said before, you blessing and cursing, life and death, therefore choose life. Life had been given to you because Alahym himself came in the likeness of your flesh and put death to death in the flesh that you might live. A lot of us don't want to sit back and look at it. This is why Alahym can be heard in his distress and be given freedom. Continuing on in Psalms 118 and verse 6. In his next statement, Yahuwah is on my side. I will not fear what man can do unto me. Yahuwah take part with them that help me. Therefore I shall see my desire upon them that hate me. We just look at take part. That's simply Azar. That is to be a help meet, a succorer, an aid, a help, and a relief. I don't care about your schedule. Continuing. It is better to trust in Yahuwah than to put confidence in princes. All nations compass me about, but in the name of Yahuwah will I destroy them. You've just seen that in Revelation 17. That all the nations are compassing this man about, but through Yahuwah, he will destroy them. They compass me about, yea, they compass me about, but in the name of Yahuwah, I will destroy them. And again, that's twofold, at his death and at his return. They compass me about like bees. They are quenched as a fire of thorns, for in the name of Yahuwah, I will destroy them. They compass, you have thrust sore at me that I might fall, but Yahuwah have helped me. Yahuwah is my strength and song, and it's become my salvation. Of course, thrust sore, you know what they thrust him with. No, that's not even continuing. When we look at that as the ka, and as to push violently, to thrust down, to be cast down, to overflow, to chase, to outcast. Remember what Paul was described to Paul, that the epistle of Hebrews. It states that to suffer outside the gate and bear his reproach. That's why he told you that men will reject you for his name's sake. And you have to be willing to take that. Because if you believe that this is the God of gods, the Lord of lords, and King of kings, and he himself was rejected, what makes you believe that you will not suffer the same outcome? When he told you if they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. If they've hated me, they're going to hate you. That's something we have to sit back and look at. I keep telling y'all that. All these brews want to sing you this love party and all us going to be down. But that's just not reality, because that's not what this word says. You got everybody amped up talking about prophecy being fulfilled in Jerusalem because they going to war over there. I can tell you don't read no book, boy. Because, boy, right at the beginning of Zechariah, boy, he said your women going to be ravished and raped, boy. And you're going to be slaughtered and killed. Not they going to kill all them people up out of there so you can come in there. That's not what that man said. But this people is going to suffer greatly before his return. Greatly. I don't think our people are prepared for it, or they don't think it pertains to them. And they're going to be upset. That's why many of the people who, I just want you to snapshot it right now in your brain. I want you to snapshot this right now in your brain. That many of the brews who you see now, who profess to be vanguards and defenders of the faith, when these people begin to suffer, as this man has told you that this will not end to the power of the Kadash people be scattered, that many of them are going to reject and denounce the name of Yahuwah to your face. Many men who you've seen on Facebook making many a post, doing many a live, making many a video, they will turn their back on the name of the living Alahym and reject the only Savior that has come unto men. Because they're going to see Bruce die in the street. They're going to see men who profess the word of Alahym be beheaded, tortured, imprisoned, eaten, and killed. and they're going to say this, there is no God. Because we're supposed to be the chosen people. Why is this happening to us? Because you had no understanding, which means you had no wisdom, which means you had no knowledge of Alahym, which means there's no way you could have any faith to hold on even unto death. Now, I want you to stamp that in your brain. So that when it happens, that you're going to know the word of Yahuah told you that was going to happen. Not that I told you it was going to happen, because I ain't doing nothing but telling you what Yahuah has already told you. I want you to know that ain't no prophecy going down over there. Prophecy for what? Niggas like, oh, and they made them Bruce leave. They should have never had it behind over there. Just because that. See, this is the simplicity of the stupidity of the average Hebrew in 2021. See, they thinking, oh man, that was Yahuah got them people up out of there. Number one, you're gonna have to deal with it. You're in exile, son. So even if you're over there, you're going to be just like how Abraham was. You're going to be just like how Isaac was. You're just going to be just like how Jacob was. You're going to be a stranger in the land of promise while it is ruled over by another people. That's how you know that these people don't read, nor do they understand. Even when Yahushua himself walked in the very land which was his, that he spied out and claimed for the house of Yasharal, he was a stranger in the land of promise while it was ruled over and dominated by another people. The same way as the three men who this nation is able to exist because of the faith and obedience of were strangers in it. And you think because you know you an Israelite that you could take your funky behind over there and think that means something. They're not the ones keeping your silly behind up out of there. Who is? He exiled you from there. Whether you go there or not, you can say this is my land all you want. You still a stranger, nigga. You know the difference between you and your forefathers is that when Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was in the land, they ain't walk around there talking about this my land. Because it was, and they knew it. But they knew they were strangers until Yahuah saw fit to hand it to them that they may rule over it. Which just shows you the level of pride. That's why he say knowledge puff up. You got all this knowledge and you proud. And you're proud for nothing because you ain't even did nothing. You ain't even earned nothing. You don't even deserve nothing. Oh, no. But see, love builds a strong foundation. And that's the love of Alahym. It builds a strong foundation. A foundation that we don't have. Nevertheless, where was I presently located? I thought I felt I said something else, but I can't recall what it is. But we can go to Psalms, Isaiah 59, though, because I definitely mentioned that in regard to breach, standing in the gap. So Isaiah 59 ain't got what I desire. Yo, that's gonna be a harsh reality. Go to Ezekiel 22. That's fine in itself. I'll work my way around it. Ezekiel 22, 27. Her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey, to shed blood, to destroy souls, to get dishonest gain. Her prophets had daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them, saying, thus saith Yahuah Alahym, when Yahuah have not spoken. The people of the land have used oppression and exercised robbery, have vexed the poor and needy. They have oppressed the stranger wrongfully. All these things they did to Yahushua. We talking about these false prophets. And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. Therefore I poured out my indignation upon them. I've consumed them with, and their own way have I recompensed upon their heads, saith Yahuah Alahym. See, that take you back when Yahushua was weeping over that city. You didn't even know the time of your visitation. Because it wasn't nan one of you niggas willing to stand up in the gap before Alahym had to come down here for him to spare that city. And right now, there ain't too many dudes standing in the gap, making up a hedge of protection for his people, because they're not giving them the information that is going to protect them. We talk about a lot of things that ain't going to do nothing for nobody but get them killed. It's a young lady I know. She shared the status of a man. That man was saying, let me just get the book. I don't want to mispronounce the people's name. Come over here to Acts chapter 5 real quick. This just show you the complete lack of understanding, the caping, the simping, and the stupidity of many people who read this text. But just come over here to Acts 5:1 while this is fresh in my brain, right? 5:1, right? Acts 5:1, right? It say, but a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira, his wife, sold the possession. What the gentleman said was Sapphira would have lived if she didn't blindly follow her husband. So let's stop with this submission that women are supposed to submit and follow their husbands blindly. What he was doing in that regard is he was making this woman seem to be a victim, and that women just follow. See, one thing for certain is that the law tells you that you're supposed to put Yahuah before everybody, husband, wife, sister, brother, mama, daddy, all that. So you can scratch that nonsense. So if somebody's walking around here telling that a woman's supposed to submit to her husband when he in error, then that's their fault for listening to that nigga and not listening to the word of Yahuah. You're going to have to own that one, buddy, because a woman is supposed to reverence and submit to her husband in all things. Why wouldn't she? But see, when dudes come through caping and saying that, they're really showing you their hatred for Yahuah, because they don't want you to follow behind Yahuah with complete submission. You know why? Because most niggas don't believe that Yahuah is righteous. See, if you know that your husband is righteous, which if you, now this is different in times past, because your father would have gave you to your husband. See, that's one of the most detrimental things of modern time. Is that a woman didn't have a choice in selection on who she married to begin with, just like you didn't have a choice in selection who your God was. Your God was chosen for you. Shalom, Brother Brennan. The God was chosen for you. And he was told, and you were given what you needed to do to submit and to please him. See, but the most problem is that women choose poorly. So they don't know if they got a righteous man or not. They're not sure. But really, most of them, you still want control. You want to lead. You want to dominate. You want to call the shots. But as we finna see right here, Sapphira wicked behind was with it. See, one thing that a lot of these whole niggas don't like to do is acknowledge the fact that the mass majority of women walking this earth are desperately wicked, and that they do a lot of wicked things. And you know why I can say this? Because King Solomon said it. That there's not, y'all find more bitter than death the woman, her hearts and snares and nets, and her hands are like bands. So that's one of the things that dudes want. That's not to say that every woman's wicked, because we know every man's not righteous. Because he said, out of all women, he found none, and out of all men, he only found one. And we know who that one is. And if you ain't in him, then you ain't hitting on nothing. Because if you in him, then you righteous, even as he is righteous. Let no man deceive you. You understand? If you got the mind of Mashiach, then shoot, you good to go. You great. It's all good on your end. You can. Ain't nobody gonna be able to judge you, and you can judge all things. But nevertheless, notwithstanding, you take the average carnal-minded woman, that woman is evil. And when I say evil, because she's going to be proud. She's going to be lifted up in her own mind, having a desire to fulfill her own will. And if there's some things that can go on to where she can get a benefit, then she is going to go along with it. Now, both of them in this matter, because we're not absolving the man, both of them were wicked. And they thought they were lying to me, but they were lying to Yahuah. Let's continue. And kept back part of the price, his wife also being privy to it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. So she knew about it. She knew he sold the property. She knew he kept back some of the money, and she was with it because he went to take it through. So she knew, and she was complicit. See, the brother who made that post, it was very, very, because you caping for women, and you don't need to do that. Everything got to be straight down the middle, man. Just judgment, just weight, just balance. They both wicked. It's not no blind submission. They were greedy and they were selfish. And it was better for them to have not brought any money at all than to bring it in lie. That's what people don't realize. That's what it would have been better than, that they had brought nothing. Nevertheless, but Peter said, Ananias, why have Hashatan filled your heart to lie to the Ruach HaKodesh and keep back part price of the land while it remained? Was it not your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your own power? Why have you conceived this thing in your heart? You have not lied unto men, but unto Alahym. Peter just told him, boy, you could have did whatever you wanted to. Boy, you ain't have to do that, cuz. He said, it wasn't it your own. And after it was sold, was it not in your power? Why would you sit here, come in here and lie? Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the Ruach, and great fear came on all them that heard these things. And the young men arose and wound him up and carried him out and buried him. It was about a space of 3 hours later when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in. And Peter answered unto her, tell me whether you sold the land for so much. And she said, yea, for so much. Then Peter said unto her, how is it that you have agreed together? What does that say? Agreed together. That means she was complicit. She was complicit because she walked right in here and said, oh, we sold it for this. That wasn't no blind following. He was wicked. She was wicked. And you know why? Because they were trying. And it doesn't say how much money they kept back, but I know it wasn't enough to die for. And Peter said unto her, how is it that you agreed together to tempt the Ruach of Yahuah? Behold, the feet of them which have bound your husband are at the door, and shall carry you out. Then she fell down straightway at his feet and yielded up the Ruach. And the young men came in and found her dead, and carrying forth, carried her by her husband. And great fear came upon the house and upon as many as heard these things. Because right then and there, they found out, boy, Yahuah don't play. Now, see, I didn't want to share that with y'all in case y'all see that, because that wasn't no, oh, I'm just following my husband. Oh, no, she was with it. She was with it. She was with it. And the part that you should have known she was with it because money was involved. And when there's an opportunity, you ain't got to like it. It ain't got to make you feel good in your brain. But if you've been around enough women, you know better. That when it comes down to money and she think that situation can benefit her financially, she's going to go with the money. She's going to go with the money. That's just the nature of a woman. Does that mean every woman? Absolutely not. But if you've been around enough women and you dealt with enough women, you know women going to go with the money. You should know that. Look how much Yasharal sell out all the time. Them boys go with the money. The reason why the women will go with the money because it tempts their lust and their desires. Men are not necessarily easily tempted by that unless they love money. But women look at security and benefit. You have to know that and understand that. And if she can see this here, that can secure some type of benefit to her, some type of security to her, she's going to go with that. That's why many people going to follow the beast. Because when he go to talk about you can't buy or sell without his mark and without worshiping that idol, people going to go just like that there, and they're going to go with the money. See, you have to understand that. That's why you can't be no slave to no money, man. Especially money that ain't real. There ain't even no real money out here. Now they got people going crazy for cryptocurrency and all that. You still going to have to cash that junk out with regular dollars, silly. All this junk is a fantasy. Because if it ain't gold and silver, then you ain't really got nothing. And even then, people saying they're investing in gold and silver, but you ain't got no gold bars at your house. Somebody else giving you a certificate saying they got it. So at the end of the day, ain't nobody got their hands on no real wealth. So there's no reason to have your heart tied to it. That's why he tell you if riches increase, don't set your heart upon it. But we don't even got real riches. So it's doubly stupid to set your heart upon something that's not even real. That's why it don't make sense to stress over it, because it's not even real. You got debt notes. You got numbers on the screen. So that allows you to keep things in perspective. And again, that doesn't mean that you ain't got no goals or things you working to. It's to keep things in perspective. If you get yourself floating all out, you gotta say, hold up. Let me go ahead and let this kite go and get my feet back on the ground because I'm tripping. Back to Psalm 118. I'll find what I want in Isaiah 59 momentarily. That's all it is. Everything is about keeping the proper perspective. Because, of course, you got a life to live. You got seeds. You got things you want to leave them. You got things you want to do for them. And very much so. That those things should be accomplished if you who will see fit. Notwithstanding. That's what I wanted, but nevertheless. Notwithstanding, we always got to maintain that we keep a proper perspective. That's why he say the seed that fall amongst the thorns, the seed get choked off and it don't bear no fruit because we get caught up with the cares and affairs and the deceitfulness of riches. And you can't grow by and by spiritually as you would desire. That's why you have to keep perspective. That's why Paul let us know, don't chase after those things. You know what I'm saying? Because they can bring men through with many hurtful lusts. That's why Yahuah told you to beware of covenants and take heed to it, because a man's life does not consist of the abundance of things that he possesses. Which is why he told you when he gave you that parable. That man had all them riches, and he said, I'm going to build larger. And he said, no, nigga, you dying tonight. Come on back to Psalms 118. But you know, also young man hustling. Do what you got to do and leave an inheritance to your seed. But don't never forget that we live in a fake society. So we don't get caught up. Because it's easy to get caught up in what you're doing, man. Every last one of us know that. I'm not excluded. All of us know that. You get caught up what you're doing, and sometimes you can sit back and realize, hold on, man, I got to come back around reality. This stuff matter, but it don't matter. It matters because I'm a man. I got to produce, and I got to make things shake. It don't matter because this not my home, and this money ain't real. I'm just a nomad, a stranger, and a pilgrim passing through, desiring a country where Alahym is not afraid to be called my Alahym, and he ain't ashamed to be called. He ain't ashamed to call us his people. Never forget about the end goal. No doubt. No doubt. That's what they're doing. Never forget about the end goal. The end goal is to touch riches that cannot be corrupted. That's the end goal. You know what I'm saying? We have regular goals. You want to build a certain amount of capital. You want to be able to give things to your offspring. I commend each and every one of you young men for it, and keep on pressing to it. But don't never forget about the end goal. Because what good is it to leave an inheritance to your offspring and you burn in hell behind it? Then that was a vain activity. That was a vain activity. If you go and whatever we doing, just like how Yahuah told us, what profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What can a man give in exchange for his soul? There's nothing in this life that we can attain and acquire and procure that is in direct relation to the soul that we possess. We have to keep that in mind, because we're all human beings. It's easy to get caught away with the cares and affairs of this life. That don't make you any less of a person. It makes you a person. It makes you a flesh and blood entity that has cares, worries, desires, whatever the case you want to be, that everybody's going to have. But always remember, keep Yahuah at the forefront of your mind and keep Yahuah in your perspective, and everything will fall how it needs to fall. Psalms 118, verse 15. The voice of rejoicing and salvation is in the tabernacles of the righteous. The right hand of Yahuah do valiantly. The right hand of Yahuah is exalted. The right hand of Yahuah do valiantly. I shall not die but live and declare the works of Yahuah. Whosoever live and believe in me shall never taste death. Believe you this. Yahuah have chastened me sore, but he haven't given me over unto death. That was the other thing I was going to get to in regards to the chastening. As forth as being in straits. See, a lot of people look at chastening, and I told you this before. Sometimes you got to pop them turn. But in reality, because I seen the brother say, that spare the rod, spoil the child, that mess black people up. And this man wasn't always talking about literally feeding someone. That wasn't always the case. Now, Musar is the word for chastening a mass majority of the time. Let's make sure that that's what's being used here. Here it is Yasar, which is the chasten, the discipline to instruct and admonish or discipline. So again, this is how you know that Yahuah is a man. When people say, you don't know if he a man or a woman, the text tell you that he chastens those whom he loves as a father chastens his own son. The fact that he's an Alahym of discipline lets you know that this is a masculine principle. Women are not the purveyors of discipline. And discipline is not, I'm going to pop you. Discipline is the ability to rein in your desires to do what you're supposed to do. That's why he sat back and told you that Mashiach was in the flesh, yet without sin, because he was showing you the discipline. Just because you have a desire does not mean you have to fulfill it. This is a simple fact. Now, I don't have a set time. I get up in the morning. It's just when Yahuah see fit to have me get up, then once my eyes open, I need to get on up. But if you got a set period of time, you got an alarm clock, and say you got to be up at 4:30, and you hear that alarm clock go off at 4:30, but you cut it off and sleep till 6 o'clock, you undisciplined. Because regardless if you wanted to get up or not, you knew you had to get up at 4:30 because that is the time period that you set to rise. Whether you was tired, whether you didn't want to, whether the bed was warm, the discipline says, I'm going to get up. See, the Ruach is the discipline. That's why a lot of rules suffer and don't win. And when we talking about win in heaven, because you ain't got no discipline. Because you know the words say, boy, don't you worship that idol God, but you do it anyway and spend time to post. It's all dudes want to do. Y'all celebrate, y'all picking at people for Mother's Day, but you celebrate birthday. All this asinine junk. You niggas' hearts is just filthy. You know what I'm talking about? Because niggas ain't got no discipline. And they feel like they boast and brag because you don't keep taking holidays. Nigga, so what? So what, you don't go to the house for Thanksgiving? You go around there and sit with them wicked niggas any other day. So what's the difference? You gonna sit around there and kick it with them wicked people, but you boast and brag that you don't kick it with them on Thanksgiving. Nigga, that ain't nothing to be proud of. That ain't nothing to be proud of. You ain't got no things in perspective. You just do that to mess with people. And I'm not promoting going to nobody's house for Thanksgiving because I'm not going. I don't care what you're cooking, and I don't care who around that. But that's not the point. The point of the matter is our people is messed up in the head, and we have no discipline. And when you have no discipline, you'll have no success. Because without this, there's no consistency without discipline. Because if you have no discipline, you just float. You're just doing what you want to do. Nevertheless, and of course, you know he chastened him sore. We can take that back to the promise he made to David about if your son don't obey, then I would chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of men. He didn't give him over to death, as we already read in Romans chapter 8. Open me the gates of righteousness, and I will go into them, and I will praise Yahuah, the gate of Yahuah, into which the righteous shall enter. I will praise you, for you have heard me and become my salvation. The stone which the builders refuse has become the headstone of the corner. This is Yahuwah's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day which Yahuwah has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Save now, I beseech you, O Yahuwah. I beseech you, send down prosperity. Baruch is he that come in the name of Yahuwah. We have Baruch you out of the house of Yahuwah. Alahym is Yahuwah, who have showed us light. Bind the sacrifice with cords. If you remember the bind the sacrifice with cords, that is in regards to a feast day. That's sacrifice. That's Kag. That's feast, festival, gathering, pilgrim feast, festival, sacrifice. And you know it's only 3 of those things. So when you see him binding that cord, and he showed us light, and he bind the feast, festival, sacrifice with cords, I think y'all know what that is, don't you? Are you able to know what that is, Martha? Oh, that's unfortunate. You have corn on your chin. Call you corn chin. If you didn't know, it's a sacrifice of Passover. When you look at it, the builders that they have rejected, remember he said Yahuwah made us a sure foundation, right over here in Isaiah 28, if you didn't know. Where he told you that he laid in Zion a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. This is taking you how love builds a foundation and repairs breaches, or would take you back to what Paul wrote in Corinthians about we have the gospel of reconciliation. So when we look at love edifying 1 Corinthians 8, we don't want to say that love instructs. It says love builds and repairs. What are we repairing? Who can have compassion on him that is out of the way? See, when we come with the love of Alahym, that's why I say Alahym is love, and Alahym of the world that he gave his only begotten son is to instruct sinners in the way. But if the sinner chooses not to obey, then the sinner will die that day. That's what you have to look at. One of the most difficult things for people to do is that when someone rejects what they're offering is to walk away from them. Which, of course, you know that's what Yahuwah instructed you to do. You are my Alahym, I will praise you. You are my Alahym, I will exalt you. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is good and his mercy endures forever. Everything contained in this chapter was built around one single solitary thing, that the son of Alahym suffered, was chastened, and was not given over unto death, and the people rejected him. And nevertheless, you showed us light, because he showed you light when he bound this man up and hung him from that tree. Come on back to 1 Corinthians chapter 8. So remember, when you read 1 Corinthians 8, he tell you knowledge make you proud, but love rebuild and build a foundation. And the foundation that you build is Mashiach. Since I mentioned foundation, 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Matter of fact, first, let me do this. Matthew 16, then 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And that's a whole nother thing we could take off onto in more detail in and of itself, about the fact that love rebuilds and repairs and fixes the breach and builds a foundation. And also by building a house. Nevertheless, Matthew chapter 16, verse 17 or verse 16. Simon Peter answered and said, "You art the Mashiach, the son of the living Alahym." Yahushua answered and said unto him, "Baruch are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, flesh and blood have not revealed it unto you, but my Abba which is in Shamahim. And I said unto you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my house, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Peter is the first rock built upon that chief cornerstone, that sure foundation. Now let's come over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. He built upon it because of his faith. Everybody who built upon that rock can only be built upon it because of their ability to believe in the word. Most people are not built upon it. That's why they're not going to be able to hold on. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. You can pick it up at verse 4. He say, for while one say, well, make it 3. He say, "For you are yet carnal. For where there is among you envying, strife, and divisions, are you not carnal and walk as men? For one say, I'm of Paul, another I am of Apollos. Are you not carnal? Who then is Paul and who is Apollos but servants, by whom you believe, even as the Lord gave to every man?" You know that way that let it be known. That's what you got going now. You roll with this congregation, this camp, whatever you want to call it. And he say you carnal and you moving like men. That's why I tell you, it don't matter who anybody fellowship with. If you see them, you ought to see the Lord. But all we're going to see is the organization. That means you're moving as a man. And who are these people in these organizations? If they are who they say they are, they ain't but servants of Alahym, and on which you believe the word of Alahym. That's it. You got people, the Most High woke me up. Nigga ain't wake you up to nothing, nigga. Because you know you Israelite don't mean you woke to nothing. Because he told you he going to work a work that you would no wise believe unless a man told it to you. But everybody want to believe you who is telling them stuff directly. You lying on the man. That's not to say he ain't did that for some, and some matter, because Yahuah can do what he want, when he want, how he want, when he feel like doing it. But a lot of these boys out here lying though. He said, "I have planted, Apollos watered, Alahym gave the increase." So then neither he that plant anything, neither he that water, but Alahym that give the increase. Now he that planted, he that water are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. Now, what is he telling you? The man that planted, the man that water, of course they won because they wanted Mashiach. They're working for the same purpose. And they have a reward according to their labor. So it's not just, you ain't nobody. No, he's going to reward you for what you've done. For we are laborers together with Alahym. You are Alahym's husbandry. You are Alahym's building. According to the mercy of Alahym, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, another builder on, but let every man take heed how he built thereupon. For other foundation can no man lay that is laid, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. See, any individual who preaching the word, they have to be a master builder because they have to have with love to edify or to build the house. How do you build the house? He that is wise wins souls. It's not a difficult matter. Stuff very simple. Back to verse 2. Well, verse 1 of 1 Corinthians chapter 8. Now, touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puff up, but love edify. If any man think that he know anything, he know nothing, yes, he ought to know. But if any man love Alahym, the same is known of him. If you love Alahym, then people gonna know that you love Alahym. It's not gonna be, you ain't gonna be able to hide that. As concerning, therefore, the eating of things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that the idol is nothing in the world, but there's none other God but one. For though there be there that are called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as there be gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one Alahym, Abba, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom are all things, and we by him. Now praise Yahuah. Now this is why we don't have to go back and do this, because all the time that we went back looking at all those different gods that are called lords. See, look at this statement in Isaiah 26. You know what he told you, right? There's gods of many, there's lords of many in heaven and earth. But he say, but to us, there's but one. That's what you have to understand. For us. See, if you're a servant of the living Alahym, if you're a servant of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then you know ain't but one God. So you can't get frustrated because these people out here say they serve many gods. Remember what Paul did when he seen them people out there on Mars Hill? He said, oh, y'all people too superstitious. Y'all worship other gods, and they just like niggas now. Y'all always desire to learn some new thing. Got to learn a new thing. You know, the rabbit hole's deep. You know, you got to keep searching for the truth. Yeah, you got to watch out for them always ever learning nigga, because he ain't learning nothing. He just learning something to talk about. Study long, study wrong. He ain't even studying long. Niggas just be wanting to sound smart. And you know why niggas be wanting to sound smart? Because knowledge is the new way to get coochie. I be hating to tell you, some of y'all women, y'all don't. Well, niggas will do anything to get coochie. If being conscious of get him some booty, nigga gonna be conscious. It's one thing that can get men booty, guaranteed, that a lot of men don't want to do, and that get some money. You know what I'm talking about? Because you got to get on your grind to get some money. Because then you can't be focused on women. See, if you're on your grind getting you some money, you can't be focused on women. So therefore, you ain't gonna be worried and see so many dudes, they focus on women. That's why they don't accomplish nothing. See, you can't be worried about women. Man, I'm gonna tell you this here, man. If you ain't got you no wife, you ain't got you no old lady, this, that, and the third. I'm gonna tell you, like I told y'all this many times before, I'm gonna tell you like Yahuah told me. Get your money, man. And I ain't gonna say hold this time. And the women gonna come. But when she come, make sure you pick the right one. Because that's what a lot of dudes don't realize. That if you take the time to build yourself up, you put yourself in a position where the women notice you. You don't have to notice them. That the women gonna like you. You ain't got to like them. You know what I'm saying? Dudes be all in women face, men and women don't even like you. Why would you do yourself like that? Why would you do it? Well, you eating like a savage. Your face greasy. That just ain't funny. You supposed to be a lady. You're looking like a nigga in the street. Oh, it's just that good, huh? Psalms 95. Living like a savage. You muffin man Randy Savage. Huh? Muffin man Randy Savage. I'm not Muffin man. Psalms 95. Verse 1. Oh, come, let us sing unto Yahuah. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms. Revelation 18. Actually, 19. I just feel like reading that because of what's stated here, that you come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with a psalm. Revelation 19:1. That's the only reason why we're reading this here. Now, of course, for Psalm in that verse, Zamir, Zayim, Mim, Yad, and Rosh. That's a song or a psalm, as you know. Come with a little singing, a Jeremiah 33, if you would. Jeremiah 33, Revelation 19 and 1. After these things, I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, Hallelujah, salvation, esteem, honor, and power unto Yahuah Alahym. For true and righteous are his judgments, for he have judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and have avenged the blood of her servants at her hand. And again, they said, Hallelujah, and her smoke rose up forever and ever. And 24 elders and 4 beasts fell down and worshiped Alahym that sat on the throne, saying, Amen, Hallelujah. And a voice came out of the throne saying, Praise our Alahym, all you his servants, both small and great, and you that fear him, both small and great. And I heard it was a voice of a great multitude, as a voice of many waters, and as a voice of mighty thunder, and saying, Hallelujah, for Yahuah Alahym omnipotent reign. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and the wife has made herself ready. So make sure that you come before that man with a little told, a little thanksgiving, and make a joyful noise. Ain't that what they told y'all at the church? How to make a joyful noise? You make joyful noises? Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Verse 3, though, this is why we're here. Who is a great Alahym and a great king above all gods? See, this takes us back just briefly to pause to think about it, if you didn't know. About the story with Dagon. What did Dagon do? Fell down and worship before the Ark of the Covenant. Because Yahuah is a great Alahym, and he's a great king, and he's above anything that can be called God, which is part of the reason why Yahushua was lifted up. Do we have to know anything like that? Nigga talking about worshiping their ancestors, goddesses, and magical this and magical that. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? You're a jackass of great proportions. You're an idiot, an imbecile, an infidel, a foolish individual, if you will, and any other adjective that you can come up with that describes some high level of stupidity. Because to believe that there is any other deity that is above Yahuah is pure idiocy. But I know people don't believe, oh, that's Bible fairy tale, the white man wrote it. I just show you, anytime you hear somebody ascribe something to the white man, they're telling you that subconsciously they believe that the white man is superior to them. When somebody can sit back and say the word of Alahym that the white man wrote it, they're telling you, so he is so superior that he can deceive the whole world to believe a book that none of them follow. None of them follow it. I know I said that before, but I want you to sit back and pause. Put the doctrine stuff to the side. The people who they say wrote this book, they don't follow it. And the people who they gave it to, they don't follow it either. So who writes a book for people to follow that nobody follows, that there's nothing in it that is incorrect? It tells you don't cheat on a man, do not sleep with a man's wife. It tells you don't cover what is your neighbor's. It tells you to respect your parents. It tells you don't murder nobody. It tells you don't steal. It tells you if you got controversy with a man, how to handle it. But sit there and think about that. It tells you not to have sex with your mama. Don't sleep with your auntie. Don't put your penis in a woman while she's on her menstrual cycle. This is what it tell you. But what's the part of people? That book tell you not to eat shellfish. Well, again, that's why he say to us there is one God. It ain't for you, nigga. That's all you have to sit back and look at. If people were following it, then all the stuff that they say wouldn't be in the earth, wouldn't be here. It tells you not to defraud a man. These people don't follow none of that. You know how we know America don't follow none of that? Because if America followed it, it would not allow people to promote whoredom on their television screens, on your phone screen, or through your radio airwaves. Because these people would be such a high moral character, if you would, for lack of a better term. And let me rephrase that. They would have such a godly mind, such a chesed lev, such a faithful mind and heart, that they would not even allow something like that to be promoted on their dime. If the white man, if they wrote it, they would promote it and push it. Not promote it and push it for you to go to church, but promote it and push it that this is how we're going to live, and there's shame and consequences if you don't. But that's the other part that free thinkers and others don't want to deal with, and that's shame and consequence. That's shame and consequence. Like I told you, man, brother did a show the other day, and he said how single motherhood has destroyed motherhood. And of course, that nigga was going off today. Old minister, remember the nigga playing the organs? That nigga was going off. That nigga had a show on Mother Day, had me dying laughing. Matter of fact, the nigga did 2 shows back to back. The junk pure comedy, but there's truth in it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? In regards to one section of our people, the women, on what they would need to apologize to the community for. See, men know what they need to apologize to the community for. They ain't been leading. And they've allowed their community to be overran with devilish doctrines and have not been strong enough in the spine area to stand up and say, no, we will not allow this. This is not what is going to be done. But because niggas want to be rappers and athletes and get booty, they have allowed things to permeate and destroy their community. So that rests at the man's feet. But that man mentioned certain things. A woman will sit there and let a man believe that a child is his, that it's not his. And when he finds out, she blames him. It's something that he did, even though you purposely knew that was not that man's child. And you had this man taking care of a child that was not his. And a slew of other things that women have to take their account of where they have damaged the community. Men have to take their account if you allow someone to introduce an outside substance into your neighborhood and you began to serve it to your own people and war and kill each other over the control and proceeds of such substance. Men have to take accountability for that. You can't blame it on you was broken. You had other choices. You had a choice. You just didn't like your choice. Because you didn't have to sell drugs. This is a conversation I done had being incarcerated for selling drugs. Telling niggas straight up and down, oh, bro, we all had choices now. We may have not liked our choices, but we had them. There's a lot of things we could have did. We could have sold socks on the side of the road. We didn't have to sell no dope. What's good, my G? Yeah, we didn't have to sell no dope, man. We didn't have to do none of that. We didn't have to do none of that. So there's the thing that the only way the community is going to be fixed is that the men have to take accountability for what they done did while allowing things to occur under their watch. And the women just going to have to acknowledge that we've been completely and totally out of pocket. Because we got a little taste of freedom. We know what to do with it. And see, they don't want to give it back. That's when you have to turn around and look at it and she don't want to give it back, walk away. See, that's what happened when you got kicked out the garden. You understand? You had freedom. And when you got out there in that world and you had some freedom and you began to exercise that freedom, you didn't want to turn back around and get that back to Yahuah when he said, hey, man, I got some instructions for you to follow, boy. Because, see, that's the difference. See, Yahuah didn't stand there and just he was over here doing nothing. He caught you out of pocket and he sought to rein you back in and you didn't want to be reined back in, so he sent you on your way. See, as a man, that's what you have to do. That's why he say, you chasten me sore. Blessed is those whom you chasten. Because that's what you're going to have to do to rein them back in. You can't allow nothing to get out the way. You got to rein it back in. Psalm 95 and 4. A lot of people don't want to rein stuff back in because that makes you the bad guy. That's why a lot of men don't like to chasten the children. They don't want to be seen as the mean guy because, you know, the father's always seen as the disciplinarian. But, boy, that's what your job is as a man. That's to bring structure and order. And like I said, and we can look at that in the text. Structure and order don't always mean busting them upside their head. Yeah, I mean, he busted an ass upside his head, but that's hard-headed, though. But there's other people who he checked and he didn't bust them upside their head. You got to have the skill to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. But the purpose in life is that so they can understand that this is not the way to go. Let me rein this behavior back in because this is the way that you have to walk. That's why a lot of brews don't like to stay in certain congregations for an extended period of time They get reined in because a lot of them still want to be in congregations, do what they want to do. That's why Paul said, do I come with the rod, or do I come with meekness? You want me to come around? And you think when he was talking about the rod in that verse, he was talking about beating grown people? Let's take a look at it. Matter of fact, hold on. Come over here to Proverbs. Let me just. And then Corinthians. Whole Psalms 95. Psalms 95 would be the last Psalms we look at this evening, by the way. I know I'm not in my complete order of what I desire to do, but praise be to Yahuah nonetheless. Psalms 22 and 15. I said Psalms. My apologies, y'all. I meant to say Proverbs 22 and 15. And then Proverbs 25 and 13. Not 25, 23, excuse me. 23 and 13. That is very dangerous, Rohan, and I agree wholeheartedly about individual groups that don't want to identify as congregations because they don't want anybody to be over anybody. That means that these men are scared to lead because they don't want to be disliked. You can't have an organization, a gathering of believers with nobody over anybody. That's asinine. I mean, you're not even dealing with men. Because ain't no man gonna ain't nobody gonna be over me. That means you got woman in your blood, boy. Somebody's got to be over the organization because somebody got directed and somebody got to correct when correction needs to be given. Because if you got a whole bunch of people around, there ain't nobody gonna correct each other. What is that, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? Ladies and gents, that, my friends, is called chaos.
It's funny they only want that when it comes to work.
Any other avenue of life, nobody has a problem with anybody being over them. But when it comes to the word of Yahuah, now all of a sudden some of these brutes sat in churches for 10, 15, 20 years and had no problem with a hierarchy of men over them. It in the word of Yahuah, and now all of a sudden they got a problem with it. Amen. Arohan is highly feminine because a hierarchy is a must. There has to be a structure. There has to be a chain of command. There has to be order. It's just as what it is. An organization can't run without order, and it can't run without a hierarchy. You find an organization with no hierarchy, with no leader, with nobody over one, and I'll show you a failed organization. And it's not a matter of if, it's when. But let's roll with it, though. I give thanks to Yahuah in the name of Yahushua. Proverbs 22 and 15. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. Now, foolishness, quickly, that's folly, that's everlast. It's a little silliness. He say it's bound. That's kasar. Kashar, that's bound together, conspire, and lead. It's fastened. It's in there. Mind of a child. The foolishness is definitely just straight right off in the mind of a child. That's not art. That's a young boy. That's the youth. That's why he tell you to flee from youthful lust. Because it's going to have foolishness. But again, you got what? You got musar. That's correction. That's discipline. And that's chastening. So when you look at that, and of course you have Shabbat for rod, which of course is the shepherd's staff or the implement or the mark of authority. So the person who has authority is going to get that discipline, is going to get that foolishness out of the child. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to eat the child, because that's what a lot of black folks say. Now sometimes you do, you got to go ahead and let them know and lay your own hand down. But as I've told y'all many times before, if the first thing that you have to lead with is to strike, you are not operating in the fear and admonition of Yahuah, because Yahuah don't lead with striking. You don't lead with wrath. He say wrath works not the righteousness of Alahym. He don't lead with wrath. He's a merciful Alahym. He leads with correction first, and the stern correction. Now, ain't no, but you stop. Oh, it's stern now, because remember what he told you in Chronicles, he had compassion on his people. He gonna come and he gonna seek to correct you by showing you the error of your way, that you mend your own conduct. But also keep in mind, when Yahuah corrected, when you out of pocket, he lets you know what you out of pocket for, why you out of pocket, and the detriment to you for being out of pocket. See, that takes a level of maturity to be able to sit down to a child and explain to them the detriment of their conduct so they can understand, I don't want to do that. And if they keep doing it, then hey, I might have to lay my own hand down. Little Muffet, take this to your mother. Proverbs 23 and 13. Indeed, indeed. Because don't get me wrong, children get on your nerves. But guess what? You a child of Yahuah and you get on his nerves. So keep that in mind. Because guess what? He don't come across your scalp every time you out of pocket when he should come across your scalp. He said, amen, Stanley. That's exactly what he did. He came and let him know what he did and how he was out of pocket. There was a punishment for his deed, but he definitely let him know this is what you did. This is the detriment of what you've done. Of course, there's consequences for what you've done, and you're going to have to suffer those consequences. But what I'm trying to do is to get us out of the mind frame that most black people have of when a child do something to automatically hit them and think that that's going to amend their behavior and that the word justifies that, because that's not always discipline and chastening. Discipline and chastening is always not corporal punishment. But sometimes they need it. And so, of course, you know your child. So when it comes to certain stuff, now if you done told this boy to clean his room 7 times and he ain't cleaned his room, and you want to part his scalp, by all means part it. Because clearly he's taking your authority as a joke. You have to let him know that I ain't nobody to be played with. But also, as I told you in the past, you got to take into account a child. Children test boundaries and limits. And then you have to know when a child is actually curious and trying to do something, and it's not necessarily doing anything to be flaunting of authority. And that's when you have to let your understanding take over and not your emotions take over. Why are he doing this here? You have to remember, this is still a child, still trying to understand and gain mastery of the world that is around them. Children mimic what they see, and they desire to be like the adults that they hold in high regard. But if you peep certain things that child doing, you got to go ahead and correct it and get it out of them. Like I said, because I seen it a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to tell all y'all that got daughters, if you peep your daughters doing anything manipulative or anything of the sort, you better start putting that chastening game down on them immediately. Don't overlook it. Don't let it slide. Don't let it pass, or she going to grow up and be a manipulative woman. And I'm trying to tell you, beating them ain't going to get that up out of them. You're going to have to sit down and really show and explain to them why that is not proper conduct and behavior. See, there's some things that a child can do that a whooping is not going to correct. You're going to have to sit down and instruct them and give them the wisdom and understanding. And if you don't have it, then you need to seek out somebody who does, so that they can give you the tools to be able to do that. Because all of us are children. All of us are grown now, and all of us know that there are things that you cannot eat up out of a child. You can't time out it up out. You can't put them on punishment up out of a child. You can't take stuff from them up out of a child. You're going to have to sit down and give them the wisdom and understanding to understand, for them to understand that is not the way to behave. That is not the way to behave. And a lot of people don't want to do that, because we feel like the pop to go to your room is the quick fix, but that behavior still festers. That's why he sent Yahuah on this earth to do the very thing of what I'm discussing, to instruct you and let you know that's not the way that you behave. You don't behave that way. You don't do that. This is why you don't do that. Oh, explaining the difference on Lord and over one another. Oh, yes, yeah, that's the easy thing right there. When you look at David, David was the king. But David did not lord over those people, even though he had authority. They all respected his authority, and he exercised his authority, but yet he did not conduct himself as if he was extremely better than the people that he had authority over. This is someone's lording over somebody. Matter of fact, I'll give you the Greek definition in Peter real quick. Hold on one second, y'all. Get this from my man. Now, when he tell you neither being as lords, when you have that Greek word in that First Peter, it is katakorio. And that is to exercise lordship over, to hold into subjection, to bring under one's power, and to exercise dominion over. Remember the statement that Yahuah told his apostles. That, matter of fact, let's look at it. Matthew 20, if you would. Matthew 20, if you would. Because indeed, when you have an organization, you have authority. But the difference is you exercise the authority according to the word dictates the authority. Don't try to dominate grown men. If a man needs to be checked, he's just gonna have to get checked. You know what I'm saying? And that's what some brothers like to scream is somebody lording over them because they got to get checked. But as I told you brothers before, at least on this end, all are grown men. You're going to rule over your own houses. I don't have the time and energy to rule over another man's house. For what? For what? You get the tools, and it's on you if you're going to rule over your house in a just and upright fashion. If you choose not, then you're just going to have to suffer the consequences of not doing so. You know what I'm saying? What he's talking about with dudes lording over somebody's house is they feel like that they are lording over someone, is they want men, and it goes back to what we read in the 1 Corinthians 3, is that you saying I'm of Apollos, I'm of son, you want a man to have dominion over you. This goes back to why Mashiach, this is why Mashiach said in Matthew 23, don't call each other master, for you're all brethren, and you have one master, even Mashiach. See, ain't none of us masters over anybody, because I don't have dominion. See, Yahushua got dominion over you. Yahuah got dominion over you. I don't have dominion over you. What I have dominion over is the organization, not the people, the organization. The organization is set by the dominion and rule of Yahuah. Indeed. Because it's no different than a family structure. Does the father have dominion over everybody in the house? He does. But see, that's why the text tells you if an elder need to be rebuked and treat him as a father, because he ain't even supposed to be, you supposed to be looking at him as if he is a father. He's supposed to be looking at you as if you were his offspring. So therefore, even though I have dominion, I don't have to rule with an iron fist because my children respect my authority. And I know that I'm not going to provoke them to cause them to stumble because I have some need to prove that I'm this great ruling individual. For what? Individuals who do that have insecurity issues. They have problems, confidence issues that ain't got nothing to do with you. But one thing for certain, and two things for sure, the organization is going to be run properly. To give you an example, when brothers were talking about, oh, we want to deal with weed, you can deal with whatever you want, but you're not going to do that over here, though. See, individuals took that as lording. Oh, there's no lording. Because I definitely prefaced my statement with saying, you can do whatever you want. But when it comes to all these people over here and your actions could adversely affect these people over here, you're going to have to take that over there. Because the type of time that we own, you opening up the door to allow nefarious people and the powers that be able to have a means to incarcerate people unjustly because of what you're doing. But guess what? They're not going to come for you niggas who selling reefer. They're going to come for the people who preaching the word. And when it come down to it, most of these whole niggas is not going to stand up and go to jail. Them niggas going to rat. So now we done put women at risk of losing their husbands and having their children taken away and incarcerated for one individual to fulfill his desire. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not happening. Individuals feel like, well, if you ain't got no word in you, boy, you can't stand up and teach no word. This ain't no baton pass around. This ain't no bonfire telling late night stories. That's outside of organizational structure and order of how men are set up and ordained in order to administer the words of salvation unto people. You just can't come up and teach people because you feel like you got a word. So what, you got a word, nigga? A homeless man on the corner say he got a word. That don't mean he got one. That's what see, when you do that, individuals feel like you lording over them when you're really asserting the authority to make sure the operation is run according to the modus operandi, which is extended down from heaven and not at the whims of men. Nevertheless, Matthew chapter 20. Verse 25, Yahushua called them unto them. He said, you know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you. Whosoever will be great among you, let him be your servant. See, Yahushua came with something different because he said those who are great amongst the Gentiles, amongst the son of Yahuah, he said they exercise dominion over their people. He said, but you're not going to do that. And you know why that's the case? Because Yahushua said, I'm your Lord and Master, and I washed your feet. And he said, if I done that, then you ought to wash one another's feet. Because even though he had dominion, rule, and authority over those people, he did not set himself up in a point where he was ruling over them and lording over them, even though he was their Lord. And he was doing that as a means to instruct those who come after him. But see, a lot of people don't pay attention to that. Remember, he said, you call me Lord and Master, and so am I. But if you pay attention to how Mashiach governed himself, this was their literal, this, you gotta understand, son, this pause, let your mind marinate on this for a moment. This is literally Alahym in the flesh. This is literally the creator of heavens and earth. This is literally your Lord and Master. This is literally the man who had dominion over you. But yet he served you and did not lord over you and exercised the authority that he had in order to do so. Moses is the same example. Moses did not lord and lord over those people. He did not lord over those people. Samuel did not lord over those people. Men who are of Yahuah have no need to have dominion and to lord over anyone. They don't have any need to do so. For what? They take great joy that their children walk in truth, as the Apostle John put it. That's what they take joy in. Not that I have dominion over you, and as Peter put it, to be an example of how you're supposed to conduct yourself. If you find you a man that takes joy in lording and having dominion and rule and being in the intricate details of other men's lives, you're dealing with a whole nigga. Ain't even no other way to put it. I can't put it nicely. I can't make it politically correct. That's a whole nigga all the way around the board. Ain't no self-sufficient, justifiable, righteous man of any level, word or not, has any desire to have any rule and dominion over another man. All he wants to do is be an aid, a help, and a guide to a man that man might actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Actually visualize and realize him being the best version of himself. The same way that a father takes joy in seeing his son grow up to be a man that he always knew his son could be. Earth got a desire to rule and have dominion over another man. He want to be able to look at it and say, look at my boy. I'm proud of him, boy. He did exactly what I knew he could do. He became exactly who I thought he would be, or maybe even exceeded what I thought he could be. That's what most men who have any, that's what most fathers want. They want their son to be a better version of them. So you see that? That's a problem. That's a problem. And again, that's contrary to what, and you can take this all the way back to the text, back in the Old Testament, all the way around the board, because none of those men who are of Yahuah had dominion and rule and authority over the people lorded over them. They were all examples. It was only the wicked niggas who wanted the Lord. Jeroboam. I could go for days, but let me get y'all out of here. We are almost at 9 o'clock. Each let me know that. Praise Yahuah. Praise Yahuah. I was just going to ask you, was that good enough? Proverbs 23:13. We'll make it 12. 23 and 12. Apply your heart unto instruction and your ears to the word of knowledge. Withhold not correction from the child. And if you beat him with the rod, he shall not die. You shall beat him with the rod and shall deliver his soul from hell. Let's look at it. Withhold correction. You know what it is. Musar. Don't even need to take. And when you take beat, of course, you know that is that's the difference. That's how you know it's not actually talking about you biting them or actually hitting them, because it's nakah, and you know what nakah means: to slay and to kill, to beat, smite, to strike, also to chastise and send judgment upon, also to be fatally smitten, to be wounded, and to be killed. Now you know that he beat Yahushua with the rod. Again, see that 2 Chronicles chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 Kings chapter 7, whichever one, 2 Samuel 13, whatever it was that he gave the prophecy to David and told him about his son, that he would beat him with the rods of men and with the stripes of men. And he beat Yahushua with that rod. He smited him, but he didn't die. That's why he tell you to take on that chastisement. You won't die. He said if you beat him with the rod, you deliver his soul from the grave. Now, again, you got Shabbat for rod, then you got beat, you got nakah again. You got nakah again. So you understand that if you give him this correction, if you lay this judgment on him, and what is judgment, but what is right and what is wrong, you can deliver them from the grave. Now, in this aspect, this talking about literally him slaying Yahushua, but Yahushua not dying because he corrected him. See, when you take this word, the word, remember they say the word is profitable unto doctrine, unto rebuke, and unto correction. So you have to take the time to actually check and correct when it is needed. The text tells you that in the law. Suffer sin not upon your neighbor, but rebuke your neighbor. So you have to sit back and look at your son. You have to correct him. You have to look at your daughter. You have to correct him. When you see things come out that they are saying and doing that you know is not right, you can't ignore it. You have to correct it right then. See all that stuff, correcting private and all that stuff, that's whole stuff. That comes from women. Because women are worried about being embarrassed. Yahuah corrected in the open and he corrected in private. And the vast majority of the time, he corrected in the open. And he corrected in the open for others to see so that they wouldn't behave that way. But see, we worry about people's feelings. And worrying about people's feelings is why our people in a deplorable state. Because you're trying to spare people's feelings. And guess what? If you see the child do something that you or heard them say something, and you come back 2 hours later, the moment is past. They don't take that seriously anymore. You have to check that right then. But in doing so, you can't allow your emotions or your frustration to overcome you to where your correction is made invalid. Because if you correct out of anger and you correct out of emotion, a child can sense that. And when they can sense that, they know that they have dominion over you and that therefore they can do certain things to cause a reaction out of you, and you have lost your power and they will not respect your authority. They will not respect your authority. You think that I'm just talking, but I'm telling you, if you pay attention to human psychology, look it up. It's not difficult to understand. If you come to correct, your emotions must be intact. You cannot be emotional. You cannot let them see you flustered. You cannot let them see you frustrated, because they are learning that I can push a button to make this nigga react how I want him to. And for a little girl, that's the last thing you want to teach her, that she can be able to do things to cause a man to react a certain type of way. Because then she's going to learn how to be manipulative and use that skill and tactic to her advantage. 1 Corinthians chapter 4. First Corinthians 4:15. You got to remember, Yahuah is a Ruach. And anybody who's of Mashiach, their affections and lusts have been crucified. Yahuah has never corrected off of emotion. This people has angered him, and even in his anger, he still didn't execute wrath. You didn't even know he was angry. For though, this is 1 Corinthians 4:15, and for though you have yet 10,000 instructors in Mashiach, you have not many fathers. For in Mashiach Yahushua have begotten you through the gospel. Wherefore I beseech you, be you followers of me. For this cause have I sent unto you Timotheus, who is my beloved son, faithful in the Lord, who shall bring you into remembrance of my ways, which be in Mashiach, as I teach everywhere in every house. Now some of you are puffed up as though I would not come unto you. But I will come to you shortly, if the Lord will, and will know not the speech of them which are puffed up, but the power. For the kingdom of Alahym is not in word, but in power. What will you? Shall I come to you with a rod, or in love, or in the ruach of meekness? Look what he said. You think this man was really going to come through a congregation of people and smite him and kill him? No, he was going to beat them with the rod to deliver their souls from hell. He was going to give them the correction that they needed. They were out of pocket. And he was letting them know, do I need to correct you? Do I need to come with the correction? Or can I come in love and with a humble spirit? Because I don't really have a desire to come through here and do that, because y'all proud and y'all doting around like what you're doing is acceptable. Psalms 95. But some of those things with the correction, y'all will more than likely revisit on top of some of the stuff that we're looking in Psalms. But yeah, correction is correction. I'm going to tell you something, man, to be quite honest with you. And some of y'all know it too. You didn't necessarily like it when your people did it. So probably the best forms of correction that any of you ever have gotten was when your people sat down and actually spoke to you and allowed you to understand the detriment of your actions, how your actions disappointed them, and how that you may not repeat those actions, versus them just spazzing out, yelling, popping you, or telling you to go to your room or taking something from you. Because remember, before Yahuah took the land from you, this is how he corrected you. You were just too stiff-necked. We stopped in Psalms 90. We in verse 4. He said, in his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of hills is his also. The sea is his. He made it. And his hands formed the dry land. Oh, come and let us worship and bow down and let us kneel before Yahuah our maker. For he is our Alahym. We are his people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart as in the provocation, as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempt me and proved me and saw my word. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and I said, it's the people that do err in their heart. They have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. But what is that all about? That's what's written in Hebrews, when he was telling you that they didn't believe, not being mixed with the faith of them that heard it. Because he was correcting those people before he did these things. See, he was trying to correct them people before he killed them with them behind them quails. He had already given them the instruction before he had got on them people for going out there looking for manna on the Shabbat. See, he had already been correcting them people kept bucking him. So he had no choice but to let his wrath go. But he let his wrath go in the most unimaginable way possible in those people's minds. He told them they weren't getting in. He told them that they were going to go to hell. In that instance, hell means Sheol or the grave. Yah forbid for their soul's sake they meet the lake of fire. But I don't see no way how they not going to meet it. Unless they heard Mashiach when he came and preached to the spirits in prison. But if they ain't believe the word when they was above ground, I know they ain't going to believe it underground. See, that's a harsh reality. We don't like to deal with that in this present day time. That boy, a lot of these boys out here cap. And they don't believe. Hallelujah for Yahushua the word. Shalom. We got many other things to go over as we go on, because dealing with him being King of Kings and Lord of Lords is just more than him just talking about having rank of authority. Even in talking about him being King of Kings and Lord of Lords is showing you what type of king he is. There is no king like him. There is no master like him. And there is no God like him. And we can be able to go through and dissect all of those. See, kings have to admit, and this is a verse in Proverbs, it's been in my brain for the last 2 weeks to go through it. A king has to administer judgment. He has to do that. That's what kings do. But our king administers judgments righteously and mercifully unto those who are deserving of said mercy. Most people reject it because, again, most people are proud. Most people want to do what they want to do. Most people don't want to be corrected. That's why he said they won't come to the light lest their deeds should be corrected. They've shown that their deeds are evil because most people are unacceptable. Like I said, our people arguing about, man, let's just lay this junk on the table. You got the ladies, the female sphere, whatever they call it. You got the manosphere. You know what I'm saying? You got all this stuff on YouTube. People talking about whether it's a Toya TKO, a Tasha K, a Cynthia G, a Kevin Samuels, a Dr. BOA, all these type of people. And the one thing that ain't nobody really looking at is if who shine light on every last one of you niggas, you all going to hell. Because your behavior is unacceptable. And see, we want to argue with, I don't like what this person say. I don't like what this woman talking about. But what would the Lord say when he saw your funky, nasty, wicked, sour behind? What would he say? Because I guarantee you, you're not going to like what he say if you don't like what these flesh and blood people saying. Because, see, he not going to want to hear that crap that you coming with. Because, see, you know the difference? You can talk back to that man. You can talk back to that woman about what you don't agree with. But you're not going to talk back to Yahuah because you're going to be silent, because you're going to be in fear and trembling. You're not even going to be able to move. You're going to be still as if you were dead. And then now you're going to have to sit back and hear from the words bellowing from the Ruach of the living Alahym how your behavior is unacceptable. And you're going to tell him you don't like his tone? Oh, that's what you're going to tell him. You could have said it like this. Your funky behind ain't going to say that, nigga. You're going to sit there shaking and trembling. You ain't going to utter a single solitary word. See, the problem with this people is you don't want to accept the fact that you trash. The women are trash. The men are trash. When I say trash, meaning useless. And the sad part is that the women are comfortable being useless. And men are trying no longer to be useless, and they want women to partner with, as Yahuah has ordained, and they're finding that the women are not acceptable for the job. And then you have women who are acceptable for the job, but for some reason, they will not allow someone to pick a man for them because they're too stupid to pick a right man. Because they want the man that they want. They want what they want because they don't want to be led properly. See, these are harsh realities that nobody want to deal with. Because at the end of, let me tell you something, man. I told you this before. People don't get offended at lies. I'm telling you that right now. People don't get offended at lies. People only get offended at the truth. So when you hear somebody and you say you don't like what they got to say, 99.9% of the time, they telling the truth. Because in my 40 years of living, I ain't never seen nobody get offended at no lie. Other than if they found out that person lied to them. People don't get offended at lies. People only get offended at the truth. I told y'all this before. So when you hear something and you feel something moving in your spirit, you mad, you upset, you would need to stop back and pause. Is there some truth in this statement? Because if it wasn't true, I wouldn't be upset. If somebody said you were smoking crack and you know you don't smoke crack, that's not going to bother you. It's only one lie that can be told against anybody that somebody going to be offended with, and that's calling a man a homosexual. You know what I'm saying? Because at that point, you sizing my manhood, and I have to defend my manhood. You know what I'm saying? I can't let that slide. Praise Yahuah, bro. Praise Yahuah indeed. You know what I'm saying? I can't let that slide. But for the most part, man, if somebody tell a lie, bro, ain't nobody been offended. Any of y'all ever been offended at a lie? How many of y'all done heard some truth you ain't want to hear and it offended you? And you had to come around back later. Oh, yeah, you right. And the snitch. Amen. Because, boy, you call a real nigga snitch, boy, that might get you killed. Boy, I seen a nigga get beat awfully when I was in my hustling days for calling somebody a snitch. You wasn't no snitch. Boy, he beat the brakes off that nigga, boy. I was sitting at the lab. I'd have told you about that before. I was buying dope for that nigga. I ain't even want to buy dope for that nigga no more. I said, boy, that nigga beat you up in front of everybody. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? I mean, indeed, women do love lies, and of course, the house of Yasharal love lies. Tell me smooth things, tell me deceits. You know what I'm talking about? The truth offends. But you know why it offends? It's the same way when I heard this dude talking about there's no such thing as depression. He wasn't saying that depression didn't exist. He's saying you can be in a state of being depressed, but depression, if you say I'm depressed, is a state of selfishness. Because when you're depressed, that's your mind telling you that there's something that you're doing that is not right, that you need to change. See, when you hear something that upsets you, that's your mind telling you there's something that you're doing that you need to change. And you don't want to change. That's why you offended. See, you don't want to change because you offended. That's why you know it's right. So you rather would attack the person who say it. That's what they did to the Lord, man. That's why you have to watch that. If you hear somebody say something and you like, oh, this nigga's this nigga's that. That means you'll kill the Lord, you wicked boy. Because somebody done told you something you ain't want to hear, and the first thing you want to do is react with name calling. Remember, if you call a nigga a name, now they call the Lord Beelzebub, or you operating with the same mind, you better check yourself. You better check yourself. You ain't moving right. You ain't grooving right. I told y'all that last week. These people going off on niggas for saying natural things. I know chicks talking about men need to watch women's channel. I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you listen to a woman tell a man, for a woman to tell a man what he need to do, you's a whole nigga. Ain't nowhere in the world, ain't no woman walking this earth can tell a man what he supposed to do. What he supposed to do. But if you want to know what you need to do as a man, you need to go talk to a man. I'm not gonna sit and listen to no woman tell me what I need to do as a man. What frame of reference does she have? Because everything she's saying is what's going to be beneficial to her, not what's beneficial to the whole. See, if you're going to be a man and you got to lead, you can't just think about yourself. You got to think about the whole. You think about how this going to benefit everybody. That means the community, not just your family, the community. See, they don't want to talk. They don't deal with that. See, that's a little too much. You're right. There definitely was offended at his presence alone. But why was they offended at his presence alone? Because they know that man was solid and wasn't nothing but truth going to come out his mouth. They knew it. See, I'm trying to get your minds and souls prepared for the dark days is ahead. Amen, Brother Harrison. Dark days is ahead. And I ain't talking about dark days like, oh, the economy's going to crash. Such your cow behind up. Boy, you know you who will give me the new season. I don't even know why you worry about that. Unless you not righteous. Because y'all already know what it is. I ain't never seen the righteous forsaken or begging for bread. So we're not concerned about that. I'm talking about dark days of wickedness abounding like a level you've never seen. Like a level that you can't even comprehend. That this man has warned you of. And you got to get your mind right and your game tight. If you're not acceptable as a woman, tighten up. If you're not acceptable as a man, tighten up. Ain't no sense in talking about what. Let me tell you something, man. And I've been felt this way. And it's on my mind. I'm rolling a little late, but praise you, Lord. All that talking about man bashing, women bashing, that's whole nigga talk. And if I catch one of y'all saying it, I might look at you like the Lord looked at Peter. So you a whole nigga today? Because if somebody's talking about something that men are doing that are not acceptable, and that women are doing that are not acceptable, or a man and a woman is there espousing something that is not acceptable, and a nigga is letting that be known that that is not acceptable behavior, and your response is you're woman bashing, you're female bashing, you hate women, you's a hoe. You's an individual that can't stand at the altar of accountability. How will you be able to stand at the altar of Alahym? How you going to be able to stand at it? Because somebody's pointed out, this is how you're behaving. It ain't right. You need to stop. That's why our people are last. You niggas evil. You're wicked. You're stubborn. You're backwards. Hey, indeed. Indeed, Brother Harris. Indeed. We backwards. Our women are the only group of women on the earth that would rather be a mother before being a wife and be proud of it. And you think we supposed, well, I heard a brother say this the other day. I ain't researched the numbers completely. But this man say, well, I take that back. The first two, that 60% of women have a child, 60% of black men are single and childless. And 15% of men, that's the part I haven't researched, were single fathers. And he was like, basically, 15% that the women are sharing the dirty 15. That most women are passing around and sharing degenerates and saying ain't no good men out here because they would rather have the degenerate. See, it's no different than you choosing Barabbas. You'd rather have the degenerate. Because, see, the righteous man is going to hold you accountable and beat you with that rod to deliver your soul from hell and call you to task for your insufficient conduct. See, the degenerate is going to applaud you in your insufficient conduct. That's why a lot of men don't like to deal with righteous men, because they're degenerates. Definitely brag about it. Because, see, we don't want to talk about the dudes, because then we want to promote, niggas want to be like rappers. This niggas are degenerate. I don't care how much money Jay-Z or Nas, those niggas are degenerates. That junk don't mean anything. I'm not impressed by that. I don't care if I like him as an entertainer or not. This nigga's a degenerate. You understand what I'm telling you? So why, well, I like this here. Why would I boast in a nigga who has no control over his penis? That will have sex with any and everyone and make babies with women he barely knows. This nigga's a degenerate. That's not somebody I want to model myself after. That's not somebody I would want my son to model himself after. He's a degenerate. You know what I'm talking about? See, it ain't just female degenerates. There's plenty male degenerates out here. It's just the fact that you can't give a woman freedom. Because once you give women freedom, they're not giving it back. You understand that? See, men can be corrected and reined in because they know that they have to be after a certain period of time. It's only men with a high level of feminine attributes that don't desire to be reined in. Because men know if they're going to do anything sufficient and they're out of pocket, they're going to have to be reined in. So they'll know they'll have to relinquish some manner of freedom in order to achieve something that is greater than themselves if they have a desire to do something great. But women, you cannot give women freedom. Because you got black women running around here talking about black men are oppressing them. How? How? Because he told you what to do. That's not oppression. That's leadership, dummy. Black man is not in the position to oppress you. Indeed, it's more women than men. So how black men oppressing you? These the same black men you say are dusties and struggle dusties and carrying garbage bags. So that means you doubly the dumb hoe if you let a broke nigga oppress you. You know how stupid you got to be if you let somebody who you say is beneath you and not on your level oppress you? That means you're not of the requisite intelligence to even be able to operate as an individual entity. How can you? That's why I tell you, brothers, for many years, you should not let no toddler or nobody stress you who's still doodling on themselves. How you being oppressed and outsmarted by somebody who's beneath you? So if you say these men are struggle dusties and they beneath you and they oppressing you, that means you are an extreme level of stupid that cannot be quantified or calculated with the human mind. Therefore, you have no right to speak. You have no right to speak on anything because you're getting duped by someone who's dumber than you. You're being oppressed by someone who's dumber than you. Because contrary to popular belief, these dudes ain't around here beating up on these women. I've been to jail. Ain't too many dudes in there for no domestic violence like that and beating on no women. Don't you believe them lies? You know what most dudes is in jail for? Killing, robbing, selling dope. That's what most of them in there for. At least when I was incarcerated. I wasn't in there with a lot of dudes who was in there for beating up on the women. And unfortunately, I've been incarcerated a few times. Not as much as others, but one time too many. And I wasn't locked up with too many dudes who was in there for beating on no women. I'll tell you that right now. And I wasn't in prison with nobody who was in there for beating on no woman. I've been in there with some dudes who killed some women now. Ain't gonna tell you that lie. Because my cousin definitely murdered this old lady. She left me, he killed her. You know what I'm talking about? He sure did too. And I'm talking about, hey, my big cousin too. I'm like this here. That nigga was in there knocking niggas out. I say, hey, shoot, I don't know what to tell you. That's my people. Better leave them alone. You know what I'm saying? That nigga about 6'5", 270. Real live boxer, knocking niggas out. And was a stone cold killer. Killed with no remorse and no regard. You know what I'm talking about? Straight up and down, cousin on my daddy's side. He like, well, we related. Yeah, man, that's our uncle over there. He told me who your daddy is. I got something for you, boy. Because you know that's how niggas be in jail. They find out they're related to you. Now they want to look out for you and give you magazines and zoom zooms and wham whams and things of that sort when they see that you're related to. You don't even know if you're related to this nigga or not, but they feel like you is, they gonna look out. But they don't want to tell you, no, ain't a lot of dudes locked up for beating up no G's, man. That junk don't go on like that. Not like you think. Not how it's perpetrated. Not how it's perpetrated. Don't get me wrong. Get some niggas who do it. I'm not saying it don't happen. A nigga who put his hands on a woman, he's a super buster. You know what I'm talking about? Well, if it's that serious, leave that girl alone, man. If you allow a woman to get you that frustrated that you got to put your hands on her, you need to check yourself as a man. Your masculinity ain't where it need to be. And if you allow your helpmeet to be able to frustrate you to the point that you can't contain and control yourself, that you put your hands on her, it's something wrong with you as a man. Ain't no area around that. That's something wrong with you as a man. Ain't nothing a woman can be able to do to make you do that. I mean, you ain't got no control over your emotions, over your faculties, over the way you govern and dictate yourself, that you allow someone to move you to do something at asinine. If he get that serious, now the only way that junk is even allowable is if she coming up putting her hands on you and you at a point where you got to get this person. Because if you want to get in the realm as a man and fight a man, don't get shot. That man hit you back. I'm talking about you are not an aggressor. You're not moving to be a combatant towards him. You just talking trash or doing something he don't like. He spaz out and hit you. There's something wrong with him. Now, if you walking up there slapping that man upside the head, hitting him with toasters, you know what I'm talking about? Hey, that's on you, baby. Oh, you bet you ain't lying now. You go to jail, she out here like this here thought-tastic voyage. She out here moving, sloring and whoring. You know what I'm talking about? Letting all type of niggas put their cream cheese on her toaster strudel to go ahead and leave her alone. To go ahead and leave her alone. And as a woman, if you ain't sure about no man, go get your daddy. And if you ain't got no daddy, go get your granddaddy. And if you ain't got no granddaddy, go get your uncle. If you ain't got no uncle, you go get your older brother. And if you ain't got no older brother, if you got a brother you know he got sense, go get him. But go get a man to vet the man. Because some of y'all know you can't choose no man right. And on top of this here, keep your vagina in your drawers. Stop giving your coochie to every nigga you run across. Now I get it. You like him. You want to give him something. I understand. But if you're going to get that nigga that coochie, then you make sure you stay with that nigga. Don't get tired of this nigga and not go give your coochie to another nigga. Now guess what? Now you just became a pre-owned vehicle and you're putting miles and miles and miles on it. You can't swap out your odometer, baby. See, you went to being a pre-owned vehicle at the Lexus dealership. Now you're at the dealership in the hood. Nigga riding down Cassidy. Nigga see you on the lot. Used to be at the Dodge dealership. Now you're at buy here, pay here. Don't do yourself like that. Keep your vagina to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Keep it to yourself. Because that's what some of these women problem is. They get that coochie up too easy. They give it to up too easy. And I know, don't get me wrong, right? Because it doesn't necessarily mean she a whore. Because if a woman like you, she going to want to give you that. And she going to want to give it to you quick. You know what I'm saying? If a woman don't want to give you no coochie, she don't like it. It'd be hard for him, even especially dealing with the word. You know what I'm talking about? She like this here. Yeah, I know I got to keep my sanctity, but I like that nigga. I want to give him some. But I got to keep myself together. But guess what? You give him some, you make sure you stay your black behind around there and you go get you some paperwork. But you know what these hoes do in their words? Sleep with one nigga, go sleep with another. Talking about I'm a queen. You ain't no queen hoe. You's a hoe. But don't you know there's some culture still in this earth that a woman ain't even allowed to get married if she ain't a virgin? Do you understand how serious of a matter that would be if that was implemented in the United States of America? How many women would not be married? Now just imagine if that was so what about the men? It ain't about the men because the men ain't got to keep their purity in such a fashion. So saying what about the men is just an asinine statement in and of itself. You think you're equal and you're not. And you're not. Now you could end up like what happened with the dude who slept with the niner. Your brothers might come through and kill a nigga for turning your sister into a whore, trying to treat her like a harlot. Nigga might murder you. I heard the dude say, "Well, what fornication out of the Bible?" Right there, what you seen happen with Niner, because they murked that boy. He ain't had no business laying with that woman. Now, he did have an intent and desire to marry her, but that wasn't the point. Oh, yeah, I mean, these women would move. They wouldn't burn it down, but they'll get up and move. They'll leave. Because they'll be shocked that they would have to be perpetual concubines, that they would never have wife status, never have wife privileges. Also, that would make a lot of women reconsider what they would do with their time. Now, of course, that was the case in our culture. That didn't stop women from giving up their time. But yeah, the men got virgins. There was no imprint. She could pair bond with that man. That's why it's detrimental for the ladies to have sex with so many men. Is you're not going to be able to pair bond with a man. Because you're going to be thinking about that nigga who did this freaky stuff to you over here. And you're going to be thinking about, oh, boy, that nigga had a big old penis over here. And boy, that nigga ate my coochie like this over here. And he did this and he did that. And then you come across with this man, you can't bond with it. See, men don't have that issue of not being, because a man going to show you he loved you by taking care of you. If you want to know how valuable all you are as a woman, it's going to be contingent on, is this man willing to make the sacrifices to take care of you? Has any man ever had a desire to want to take care of you and make you his responsibility? And if that has not happened for you, then you would need to look in the mirror and assess yourself. What is it that I'm lacking as a woman? It ain't just about your physical appearance. It's going to be how you conduct yourself as a woman, that no man has a desire to make me his responsibility. Now, your physical appearance will play a role, but you would have to look at, why don't no man want to make me his responsibility? See, Yahuah loved you enough to make you his responsibility. He didn't love no other people like that. That's how you know that you his lady. He loved you. He chose you to wife. So you'd have to look at that. But he mentioned the attributes that he desired in his wife, because those attributes were in the men whom he had chosen before he came to take said wife, which is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They possessed the attributes of a wife to him. That's why he say, I will choose them and their seed after them. So he said, I'm willing to take responsibility for these people, as it is stated in Romans 9, the giving of the covenants, the service of Alahym, and the things of that sort. But as a woman, if no man has seriously approached you and stated the desire to make you his responsibility, you're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror. Now, some of you women locked up and the man just scooped you up. And see, there's another instance. I done told y'all this before as well. I was talking to Will about this one here earlier. Because he just mentioned, he recalled it, and I ain't told y'all this in a while. If you want to see the character of an individual, you have to see them under adverse conditions. If you want to know who you're dealing with. Especially if you're dealing with a woman. You don't really know that woman until you've seen her in an adverse situation. Then you're going to know who she really is. If you ain't never been in no adverse double fold, you don't know that woman. Because women don't handle adversity well. They need a man to be able to comfort them in the midst of adversity. So you don't know a woman if you ain't never seen her in adversity. I don't care how well you think you know her. I don't care how many times you've been in them guts. I don't care how many positions you done put her in. I don't care how many. It's real easy to be solid in good times. It's real easy to see somebody be of high quality when things are good. But you see the hallmark of an individual's mettle and their character in the midst of adversity. That's where you see how she deals with adversity. Whether it's adversity that she's dealing with or adversity that you got to navigate the family through. Just trying to tell you now, you don't know nobody till you see him with an adversity. You don't know him. You think you do, but you don't. But bless us out the house, Alahym, in the name of Yahuah. Y'all forgive me. I went a little longer than anticipated, but I appreciate y'all time and patience with me this evening. I bless y'all out the house, Alahym, in the name of Yahuah, man. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Continue to stand firm on the rock. You who are willing, we'll pick it up on the Shabbat. Make it do what it do. If you who will let us see it through. And until that time. See, I knew